we're now in chapter 2 now. We're entering chapter 2. But really, it's not. Yeah, Ty, you should get the English translation of the October 17th class lecture. That's the.
So, I, which we have the ego, is the same thing, and you.
It's the self. The self.
Right?
Yeah, self-image.
Right. And sentient beings and life. Those are the four images.
I, you, sentient beings, and life.
Yeah.
Well. See, some people translate it as. See, in the Diamond Sutra, in the very third chapter, it mentioned it already, right? 我相, 人相, 众生相, 寿者相, right? It says ego. They translate ego or self. You can say self-image or ego image, and then image of a being. 那是人相 being. Yeah, a being, a sentient being. Yeah, you can say sentient being. Yeah, being, sentient being, and then 众生相 he's called it sorry. No. 人相是 personality. It's called personality. Yeah. And here's why. See, personality denotes, connotes interacting. Yeah, it's your personality. People because and here's why. Well, or it's a attribute. Okay, and why? People ask you, oh, how's that person like? Right? How's that person? Oh, do you know that person? What's he like? Or what's she like? Right? What he like, what she like. So people say, oh, the personality. Oh, that person is happy-go-lucky, or that person is stingy, or that person is very open-minded, or that person is very mean, that person is very friendly. And that's personality.
Yeah.
Or description. That's why we call it personality. Or you can say characteristics or attributes, okay, of a being. So that's why we call it personality. That's 人相. And the reason why is that 人相 denotes really a dialectical, meaning because there's a you and then there's a them, right? That's otherwise it's all me, right? So that's why 人相. So that's why, and the reason how we distinguish between you and them, or we and them, is personality. Say, oh, that person is, good or not good, right? Or we can say by physical attributes too, okay? Say, oh, they're Muslims, we're Christians, they're Muslims, like that, okay? So personality, even personality is kind of narrow, but personality is innate attributes. Whereas we say religion, that's external, because religion comes from external, right? Because before religion, before there's a time, there's no Muslim, there's no Islam, there's no Christianity. So those are external, those are later. See, so personality is inherent in you, right? And me. So that's why it's personality. That's 人相. So remember that's dialectical, okay? Then the 众生相, right, is what? Being. That's the sentient being. That means we're grouping people now. Okay, not just between two person, right? One to one, or one. Now it's many to many. Okay, now it's like groups. Group A versus group B. Cliques, tribes. Yeah, survivor, right? Tribes. Okay, so that's why. Okay, that's cliques, or even nations, societies, communities, etc. Okay, so that's called being. Okay, and then what's the last one? Life. 寿下. That means you want to think about the future. That's where the three minds come into being. When you start thinking about the past, the present, and the future. Okay, that's called life, right? Past, because life has a beginning and end, right? So that's why there's a past, present, and future. Get it? So that's what we call it, a life image of a life. Or really, it's images. It's you can say image, but it's views too, because it's really the views. The views of a life, views of sentient beings, views of personalities, and views of yourself. That's the ego, right? Self, same thing. Okay? So those are very important. So Diamond Sutra, guys, every chapter they mention it. Okay? Every chapter they mention about the four images. All right? Chapter 3. Sorry, chapter 3 is the very one of the very first aspects. Okay?
One.
Two.
Good morning.
Okay, good morning. I want to thank the grace of heaven and the mercy of the virtues of the masters and predecessors, etc. Okay, for giving me the opportunity to conduct this class. Okay, so now we left off. Well, we left off a Q&A, so we pretty much finished chapter 1 or the first 3 lectures. Okay, of Lecturer Liu's series. Okay, so now we're on the 4th lecture, the October 17th. Now that's where we'll start chapter 2 of the Platform Sutra, which is called Prajna, wisdom. Okay, chapter 2. That's the title of the chapter. But Lecturer Liu, he kind of like digress a little bit. He, instead of jumping on this lecture, instead of from the start, instead of jumping in on lecture 2 on the 2nd chapter on wisdom, he decided to introduce two Zen masters and kind of explain from the Buddha nature point of view. Okay, there's what they call their words of enlightenment, or their song of enlightenment, or verses of enlightenment. Okay, that's what they call it. Okay, the song, because you gotta understand, in the old days, in those days, because they're individual cultivators, and a lot of these are Zen masters, obviously. Whenever they become enlightened, or whenever they reach a certain level, because they want to express, if you will, because remember, this Tao, right, or the Buddha nature is really, truly unimaginable and undescribable, or indescribable, right? It's beyond words. But they still have to make an attempt to express that they literally, quote unquote, see their Buddha nature, right? Saw their Buddha nature. They 见福性, right? Or they 知福性. They know, they realize it. Yeah, you can say they realize it, or they're at that state, or you can say at that state. Okay, so they have to express that somehow. Now, some Zen masters, they don't. They just wink their eyes. They gesture motion. Because like I said, that state is truly indescribable. It's like saying describe your Buddha nature. You can't, right? I mean, it's you can try, but it's not perfect. Okay, or it's incomplete. All right, so that's why they have to do it. So just like remember in chapter 1, recall that 5th Patriarch Hongrui asked Hui Neng, or Shen Xiu in this case, or not Shen Xiu, but he asked the congregation, right, to write a poem, right, to express how much you understand, right, what Buddha nature is, or enlightenment, in other words, okay, right. So you have to express. You can still try to express it, but the point is, it's very difficult, right? So obviously, Shen Xiu tried it, and obviously we found out that he's still attached to a form, right? And Hui Neng wrote one, but we realized that even though he's, you can say he attained that threshold. He's at the threshold of enlightenment, but he's still in his poem, right? In his song or phrase, the 4 phrases. We call it poem, right? Whatever. He's still attached to emptiness, right? And so 5th Patriarch, only until at midnight, when 5th Patriarch told him that, you are talking about emptiness, right? But then it has to be the combined, right? And he quoted something from the Diamond Sutra, I think it's chapter 10, from the Diamond Sutra. Only then 6th Patriarch understood that, it's neither enlightenment or Buddha nature is neither form nor emptiness. You know that, right? So it has to be merged. So then he said something, right? He said a 5-line poem that proved that he's enlightened. So that's like his song of enlightenment. Okay. Now, so in lecture 4, right? So Lecturer Liu is just just expand further. Okay, he wants to explain. Okay, so he's talking about this guy, this Zen master called what's his name? 子善, right? 子宪, right? 智慧的知, okay? 智贤, right? 贤. Yeah, it's hard to translate his name. I mean, you can't. 智 literally means wisdom, but yeah, 贤. Yeah, I can say virtue. Yeah, I mean, so really the translation is meaningless, but that's his name anyway. Okay, so this is a Zen master. Now his master was called Ling Yo, right? Ling Yo, right? Ling Yo. So one day, his Zen master Ling Yo asked Zixian, who is his disciple, and he had many disciples too, but he's like the most capable one. Okay, he asked him, says, okay, now you've studied so long, now why don't you write a phrase, to help to explain, to express what you think of the Buddha nature is. Okay, so Zixian said, oh man, again, it's like 神秀, right? So he said, "Oh, okay, you know what?" So he replied back to Ling Yu, says, "Oh, is this what you're talking about? This, he started telling him, what he learned, so far, right, in the past under Zen master Ling Yu, under his master. Oh, is it this? Is it about this emptiness? Is it about this concept? Is it about this doctrine? Da, da, da. And Ling Yu say, no, you're all wrong. That's not the Buddha nature. It's not Buddha nature. It's not the Buddha nature. So then Zixian said, well, if what I've learned is not the Buddha nature, then can you please explain to me? Can you say it to me? What you think is the Buddha nature? And what did Ling Yu say? He's smart. Ling Yu is. See, that's why it's. This is wisdom. This is proof. This is called certification. Okay, certificate. 印证. This is called certification that one is enlightened or not. Okay, that's why you have to write a poem. That's why if you express it, then that will certify. Say, oh, people will say, wow, blow them out of the mind. Say, whoa, yeah, this is it. Okay, so what did Ling Yu say to Zixian? He said, okay, describe the state that you were in when you were in the mother's womb, before you were born. Zixian goes scratch his head. What? How can I describe the state that when I'm in mother's womb? I'm probably not even alive yet. Well, I don't know if you're not alive, but I have no consciousness yet. How can you do that? How can I describe the state that I was when I was in my mother's womb? Come on. Can anybody describe? Good question, right?
A state
Smart.
of calmness.
Maybe. Okay, describe it, man. Come on. So Zixian couldn't. Obviously, he couldn't answer. So he begged his master Ling Yu. Says, "Oh, how about this? How about can you describe to me what you think, what you feel, the state you were in when you're in mother's womb?" And what did Ling Yu say? He said, "I could, but that's my understanding, or that's my expression, not yours. Right. So you have to see." So we come back to one thing, and this is, you can say this is mystical, or one thing that's universal among all religions, really, or all things, and the Tao particularly. It's called the experiential dimension, right? It's called the experiential. There's 6 dimensions, but I don't want to go into that. That's because that's the scholarly way. That's the scholarly path. I don't want to lead you down. You guys can look it up yourself on the internet. But it's called the experiential dimension, and that's usually the most, you can say, the most basic or most common, universal. That's why I call it universal. It's because everybody always have to have their experience. Have to experience it. You understand it? Have to experience it. So if I just watch a movie or read a book or hear people talk like you are doing it right now, if you don't experience it, it's worthless. Yeah. Everything's worthless. Yeah. Everything is worthless.
Yeah, I mean, I was saying earlier about this is not knowledge. I mean, it's what we hear. You can read the books. That's all knowledge. But you have to internalize it. Right. So once you experience it yourself, that's the true Tao. Right. So just like, you can, the food or something you drink, right? I can drink water and say, oh, I tried to describe it to you. That's what we're talking about here. But unless you drink it yourself, you don't know what it is. Right. You don't know what it tastes like. So same idea. Same idea.
Okay, so that's why, just because you say, oh, I come to class, I go on the internet, I read the thing, and I listened to the thing. But if you experience nothing, so sorry,
It's just knowledge.
worthless. You might as well be a sentient being, worthless. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. No, but you should. So that's why we have to learn. That's why this is the learning part. This is the cultivation part, okay? We haven't gotten there yet. We haven't reached that route. But the key is try and try and try again. That's why we also have to focus, okay? You have to focus. You have to concentrate, all right? Okay, so one day you'll get there. Some quicker than others, no problem. But because that's their karma. That's their foundations, really. The ji, but the ji is foundation, right? Yeah, foundation. Yeah, genji. That's their, you could say, foundation root or whatever. Yeah, whatever. Maybe because in their previous life they've cultivated maybe harder than you have, or much more than you have. So therefore they are ahead of you. Okay. So, but doesn't matter. The point is you will. And here's why. Another reason why we say we have to experience it. Very fundamental. It goes right to the point of the Buddha nature. Why? Because we all have Buddha nature. That's why you have to experience it yourself. Understand?
Yeah, we have to live it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, you have to experience it, then you live it, obviously. Yeah. Well, because you act upon it. So you're basically, when we say at one or you're in harmony, that means, that entails everything. That basically means that you are at one internally and externally. That externally means that you live it. Internally means that you are in the moment. You can say in the moment, no four images, no three minds, none of that, no 10 lives, none of that. It's you are it. And there's a term that's found in no other language. Now in Chinese they translate it, but the term is called tathata, suchness. Literally means suchness. In Chinese they translate as 如来. 如来. Ru Lai just means, I don't know, I mean, it's hard to translate. Ru Lai, it means is, just is, just is. Or you can, further, one example says, it neither comes nor goes. Neither comes nor goes, right? Ru Lai. That's why later on, when we go to the poem, to the poem, it'll say, well, the other person, it says, 生死涅槃等空花. Okay, but it just means, there's no nirvana either. When you are at one, there's no such thing as nirvana. That's why, remember last week I said, Sakyamuni, when he was about to leave, right? Ananda, his cousin, Ananda, Ananda was with Buddha for roughly 20 plus years, roughly. So kind of late. Buddha, passed away at 79, right? Roughly 80, almost 80, right? So Ananda only became his disciple, the cousin of Buddha, became disciple when Buddha was almost 60 years old. Kind of late. After Shibuti. Well, Shibuti, maybe a little bit earlier. But anyway, but doesn't matter. But Ananda was crying. Say, oh, cousin Sakamuni, why are you leaving? Why are you going? You're Buddha. You don't have to leave. And what did Sakyamuni say? Well, he asked him, Nirvana. He goes, Nirvana, where are you going? Where are you going? Nirvana, right? Because when he said Nirvana means what? To enter a state, to leave, to go to a different plane or whatever, okay, whatever, different dimension, whatever. So what did Buddha say? Yeah, I'm here. I'm still here. See, that's the in the moment. And there's a reason why. Because when you are a Buddha, like a Buddha, okay, you are literally everywhere. And yet it's no form. So that's why we say it's empty, and yet there's a Buddha nature. You get it? So it's both. You see what I'm trying to say? Okay? So because you're literally everywhere. Because everywhere is, like you could say, within you. I mean, it's hard to imagine because this is like, it stretches, the bounds of our thinking, of our thought, right? We can say, oh, how it's dimensional. It's some strange dimension or something. You could be everywhere. So that's why Buddha said, I'm not going anywhere because he's at one. You see what I'm saying? Okay, he's at that one. Okay, so there's no nirvana. The only reason why we say there's nirvana is because we are sentient beings. We still have a life. We have an existence and we have a non-existence. We still are in that dialectic, dualistic realm. You get it? So that's why we say, oh, there is nirvana. You get it? But if you're not in this dualistic state, there's no nirvana. You know that? Understand? So it depends on the perspective, right? Okay? Okay, so that's fine. So anyway, so what was I going to talk about? Okay. Describing the state. What's the state that you are in, that you are when you're in the mother's womb? Duh. Anybody know? Anybody can describe it?
What about you?
It's irrelevant.
Yeah.
That's the answer. It's irrelevant.
Yeah, it does. There is no correct answer. Or there's no, yeah, you can say no wrong. No one answer. Yeah, no set answer. That's the key. That's the key. As long as you are in a state of one, that's it. I mean, I can reply to your next say, I'm at one, or whatever. You know, that's right. But there's no set way. That's why there's no set one correct answer. See, that's one thing that's marvelous about Buddha nature. That's why.
But the thing is, unless you're enlightened, all you're saying is just it's come from knowledge.
Right,
It's not,
right,
you
right,
didn't experience
right.
it. You
That-
haven't,
yeah,
you're not
yeah,
at one
yeah,
yet. We're not
yeah,
at one
yeah.
yet.
That's
so
it.
we can't-
Yeah. That's what I'm gonna say. The other aspect. See. On the one hand, you can say it, and there's no one answer. So that's one side of the coin. And I want to say the other side of the coin. What's the other side? Remember, that's why we talked about that question last week. That's why this is cumulative. I say 即心即福, and then 无心是道, right? So on one hand, we say, you know, nothingness. Okay, whatever. Okay. So like that, like I said, there's no one answer. Okay, that's like the nothingness. Okay, aspect. But whatever you respond, whatever answer you respond, it has to come from 即心即福. Get it? It has to come from I mean, we translate as straight mind, direct mind, spontaneous mind. It's tough. That 即心 means literally the mind, the mind, or it comes from your Buddha nature. That's the better way to describe it. As long as those words, comes from your true mind or the essence, we call the essence of our being or nature. Okay, Buddha nature, which is Buddha nature. Okay, the essence, unless it comes from that, that's why 即心即福. You understand? Unless it comes from that, everything, all the words that you say it's still knowledge. It's still afterthought. It comes from your conscious mind, which is already the 5 skandha, which is wrong. You get it? So that's why it has to come from. That's what we call it. It has to be spontaneous. It has to be like, you know, suddenly a light bulb goes off, or even then, that's probably wrong. But anyway, it's like that. It's unconditioned. Maybe that's a better term. It's unconditioned. You get it? Because even if I say something from a knowledge, that's conditioned because it comes from my memory. Oh, I remember I read someplace, somebody said this. Okay, so I say it. That's wrong because that's conditioned. That's a conditioned response. It has to be a non-conditioned.
External.
Yeah, external, right. It's non-conditioned. You get it? It's non-conditioned and it's non-dualistic, non-conditioned, non-attached. That's how we describe 即心即福. Okay? That means no, not from your knowledge. Okay? Understand? It has to come. Okay, so anyway, so 知贤 say, if it's yours and you can't explain it to me, then what am I going to do? So he gave up. So he says, okay, I might as well leave because I can't explain it to you, or I can't say it spontaneously. Okay, from his Buddha mind, whatever. Not from his conscious mind. Okay, mind you. Okay, so he packed up his books or whatever his belongings, and he went home. He went home to either meditate or he basically gave up. Says, I'm not enlightened. So he decided to farm. He has to farm. So one day, I guess after some time, one day he was cutting grass. I think it's cutting grass, right? Cutting grass, and he has a sickle, right? They don't have lawnmowers, so he was a sickle, and then when you're cutting grass, I guess it depends on the ground, right? I mean, sometimes there are stones, pebbles. So he happened to strike a pebble, and the pebble flew and hit a bamboo tree. Ding! It made a noise. Ding! And then suddenly he realized. See, that's called spontaneous mind. He didn't think. He wasn't thinking and the reason why is because he was in a state where he is very focused. That's why we say. That's why we say meditation, right? But that's why like you have quote unquote a meditative state. You're in a state of no thought. Let's put it that way. He wasn't thinking of it. He just focused on doing. And it's almost like automatic too, because I mean after a while you just like you don't have to think, right? You don't have to think about swinging back and forth, cutting the grass, right? And then he was just like in a quote unquote like a unattached mental state. You can say that because his mind was thinking. In other words, his mind is like empty. You can say it. His conscious mind. Let's put it this way: his conscious mind was empty or unattached, undisturbed, unmoving. You get it? And then suddenly a sound. He perceived the sound. So let me ask you, what perceived that sound? That's the key. What perceived that sound? You get it? Right. It's not his mind. It's not my ear. I'm focused. Oh, my ear is focused on listening to something. No, because his mind wasn't thinking. You get it? His conscious mind wasn't thinking. Right? Wasn't working. So when he heard that ding, that when the pebble struck the bamboo, that sound was perceived by what? His Buddha nature. You get it? So at that point he realized. He says, oh, it's my Buddha nature that heard that sound, not my conscious mind. Yes, it goes through your conscious mind. You can say it goes through, eventually it goes through your ear, right? Your ear. And then when it responded back, your ear goes back to your brain, right? But it didn't go through, it just like, it's kind of like it went through like a vacuum. His brain wasn't working. Was not active. So even though the sound went through his brain, but the brain wasn't working, wasn't active. So what's left is Buddha nature. You get it? So it's the Buddha nature that. So when he heard that, wow, he became so happy because he realized. You get it? He realized, he understood what his master, Ling Yu, was trying to tell him. Explain to him that you have to experience it. Get it? You have to experience. So all of us have, at some point, must have an experience like that for us to become enlightened. If we don't, then it's just through knowledge. It's just knowledge. Then we're a scholar. We're no better than a scholar, a PhD or whatever. You get it? That's why the experiential dimension is key. It's fundamental. You can say it's fundamental. Without it, it's all knowledge. Get it? That's why Lecturer Liu, he stressed we have to let go of all of our thoughts. You get it? So that we can be in that state, just like Zixian when he heard that sound. Understand? Now, it's not just hearing. It could be touch too, sense of touch, smell, taste. It could be any of that. Or sight too. It could be a sight too. It doesn't have to be just sound, okay? Understand? Because there's another story of one who was taking a shower, but I don't want to go into it, but you guys can read out. It'll come up in another lecture. He was taking a shower. He was a monk. And then he was realizing, he was wondering, let's see, I'm taking a shower, so am I washing this body that's cleaning this body? Or is it the sand? But they both have no feelings. So how can they be clean? Then he realized it was his Buddha nature that was doing. Okay, but anyway, that's then there's another monk was a thorn struck his foot, and he didn't feel the pain. He was walking home, and then because he was so focused on the teachings, on the lecture or whatever, and then when he got home, his mind, he started, he became in touch with reality. He suddenly thought, wow, how come my feet is killing me? Then he found out there's a thorn. Then that led him to wonder, say, wait a minute, how come before I didn't feel anything? But I have a body, so shouldn't the body be feeling it? So what is it? So it's not my conscious mind. He understood that was his Buddha nature. You get it? Okay, so anyway, but okay, so let's talk about this. Okay, let's talk about this. Anyway, so he became so happy. Okay, so Zixian, right? So what did he do? What did he do? Wow, he immediately, burned. He took all his books, all his learning material, and he burned them. He burned them. Because he realized that all that is knowledge. It's knowledge. It's information. It's data. It's knowledge. No big deal. Nothing. That's not your Buddha nature. In other words, the knowledge, the Buddha nature is not found in that knowledge. You get it? Okay, so that's why we say it's not knowledge. Okay, and then he took a shower, cleaned himself, dressed and present then he hurried back to his master Liu Ling Yu, right? Ling Yu, yeah, Yo. Okay, and so he knelt down and he said to his master, Master, I am so happy that you did not tell me you did not describe to me what the state or what kind of state you are when you are in a mother's womb. Because if you had told me, I would not have been enlightened. See, that's the experiential. See, so everything is knowledge. Now we read about this, we say, just knowledge. But if you don't experience it, it's still knowledge. It's useless. That means you have not reached that state of one. Okay? All right? Okay.
Yeah, the other point is that when he said that, basically, sometimes we get attached to the knowledge. So if the master had given him his answer, he would have just thought that was it.
Attached,
and then
right.
so he wouldn't experience it himself.
Correct.
Right? So that's why sometimes...
It becomes a hindrance.
Yeah, it becomes an obstacle. So we learn this stuff, but don't become attached to the knowledge. We have to, just like I said, again, you have to experience it.
Yeah.
Go, experience it yourself, and not just take this knowledge as this is the truth or this is the Buddha nature. It's not. It's just it's kind of a guide. It's someone else's experience that they experience, and we have to still experience it ourselves. Yeah.
Right. It's just to help us. This is just to help us along. Okay? Because in the Diamond Sutra also, what did Buddha say? The Buddha say to Shibuti, very important. It's the same concept. He said what? He said, 相法应舍 right? 相法应舍，小跟那个口 right? 相法，法门的法，应舍。Yeah, 何况非法 right? Yeah, very famous. Diamond Sutra, guys. Come on, you guys can read it. Okay? What does that mean? He said, even all dharmas, even the true dharma, must be let go. How so? Not even, the non-dharma, all the teachings, all the teachings, okay? All the knowledge, in other words, knowledge. So same idea, okay? So what we learn, what we hear, what we read, what we see, it's dharma. It's true, but we still have to eventually let go. You cannot be attached because here's the problem, and that's the problem with religion nowadays. That's the problem. Say, oh, the Pope or such and such a master told me that's it. So you just get stuck on that. Right. Or their interpretation of the Quran or the interpretation of the Bible scripture is this. We say, oh yeah, they're right. So we follow. You get it? So you become attached. You get it? And so you become what? Constrained by that interpretation, by that view, by that one view. You get it? And that's how come we have wars. We have different different groups. Oh no, your interpretation is wrong. No, mine's right. Yours wrong. So they what? And that's how conflict, friction. All right? Okay, so that's wrong.
It's blindly following.
Right. That's called blind faith.
Blind
That's
faith,
like blind faith.
And there's no wisdom. So that again,
Yeah.
that's part of that experiencing the doubt, the true nature. I mean, you don't get we don't have that wisdom. So because we're just following what someone else said, and then we just follow that blindly.
Then now you talk about sheep. Those are sheep.
Yeah.
Okay? All right? They have Buddha nature, but yet they don't use their Buddha nature, like experience it. You get it? That's what we say wisdom. We need wisdom. Really, it's one way to look at it. It's two sides of the same coin. One is wisdom, one is principle. It's hard to know the principle. The principle is that one, that oneness, that tathata. Okay? It's hard to describe. Describe tathata. It's hard. But we have wisdom too. So the key is all this teaching is to help us what? Open up our wisdom, to develop our wisdom. And then as gradually over time, as our wisdom open up, then the principle, that tathata, will reveal itself. And then it's merged. Then it'll converge. The tathata and wisdom. You get it? That Li is principle. We call it principle. The Tao. Li, you could say Tao. Yeah, the Tao. The Tao and your wisdom or Buddha nature merge into one. That's tathata. You get it? Okay. So anyway, so here's what he said. So then he recited eight stanza poem. I mean his. Okay. He said, 一既忘所知，更不假修治。 动龙扬骨路，不堕萧兰机，楚楚无踪迹，生舍外为义，诸方达道者，诚言上上机。It's beautiful. If you guys can understand Chinese, it's very beautiful. It has so much meaning. And if you truly understand, if you read it, then you'll understand. Say, hey, what this guy said, very profound, very profound. Okay, so Lecturer Liu explain. Okay, so the first phrase, 一击忘所知. 一击 means one strike. He was describing that pebble striking the bamboo. So 忘 literally means to forget. 忘 means to forget. 忘所知. To forget whatever all he's learned. So, because why? He realized that all learning, all knowledge, all conscious thought is not the Buddha nature. It can be gotten rid of, can be let go. So that one strike of that pebble led him to understand that you can forget everything that has to do with our conscious mind. You get it? So that's the description of our Buddha nature. Okay, but anyway, so it's very beautiful. But anyway, so you guys should read it. You guys should look up that thing, look up that lecture and read it. And I don't know if the explanation is that good. It's okay, but all right.